Welcome back from the ad break. You are still watching Prime Live. My next guest is Fatima Seedat, who is an expert on mental health. Assalamu alaikum, Fatima. Welcome to Prime Live.
Alaikum salam and shukran for the introduction.
A conversation that we will be having because we'll be speaking about, mental health awareness and panic awareness day that will be coming up. Can you please tell us why it's important to bring awareness to mental illnesses?
Mental health has always been highly stigmatized in our communities. And in order to break down that stigma, we have to create more conversations, more awareness, and more information about it because the more we learn about mental health and mental well being, the more people speak about it, the more we normalize it, which makes it easier for people then to be open about what they're feeling, what they're going through, but also more welcoming to go and getting treatment that they need.
Mm. And what does it mean to struggle with panic disorder?
So panic disorder is it's a mental health condition. Although it has a lot more physical symptoms, and what brings on the physical symptoms is what happens to you psychologically and what's in your mind. So when you are overly fearful of a situation, and for instance, if you were robbed in a certain spot on some pathway, and every time you go past that pathway, it increases your anxiety levels. And what happens is sometimes the anxiety levels increase. And due to the increase in that, you have a panic attack, which is the physical manifestation of your panic, anxiety. And what happens then is you have all these physical symptoms where you can feel like you're having a heart attack, that you have shortness of breath, your heart rate increases, your blood pressure increases. Some people feel nauseous, they have sweaty palms. All these physical symptoms then become your panic attack. It
Mm.
lasts for maybe 2 to 3 minutes and then it will subside, provided you know how to then, cope with the situation and how to help yourself through that situation, which is also important.
Mm. And what are the most common misconceptions about panic disorders?
That's a very interesting question. A lot of people do confuse panic with anxiety. So the first thing is your anxiety is something that's a prolonged fear of something. It does not have as many severe physical symptoms, so it won't feel like you're having a heart attack, although your heart is racing to a certain extent that is not normal.
Mm.
Whereas panic, you're gonna be having the actual symptom that takes the takes the prevalence here, where you feel overwhelmed and you feel like you're having the heart attack because it's that severe the way you feel.
Mm.
With and also with constant anxiety leads into panic. The other misconception that's also quite interested is people often say snap out of it, or, you're being too dramatic.
Mm.
It's not the case. People do have severe panic and anxiety, and yes, it does come out in physical symptoms, and it's not always the physical health issues that have caused it, but actually something that's more psychological.
Mm. And let's speak about people who may be experiencing these signs, but they don't know that, this is actually a sign of me having a panic attack or an anxiety attack. What are the signs to look out for?
Okay, so when you're looking out for signs, for panic, it's usually physical. So, like I said, racing, your heart racing, your breathing, you have difficulty breathing. So it could feel like an asthma attack, a headache, stomach aches. With the younger children, they'll throw tantrums. They'll refuse to go to school sometimes, or to be in presence of different people. With adults as well, you do feel that sense of isolation, and people do avoid going into public spaces. That is part of the anxiety that you go through. There are also other issues like nausea, like diarrhea. There's a lot of physical symptoms, and Sometimes we just have to take a step back, see whether it is a physical cause. If not, then we have to reach out and find out what's triggering that cause. And that could be your panic or anxiety that you're going through.
Mm. And for those who may be experiencing someone next to them who has a panic attack or an anxiety attack, how can they best show support?
I think the first thing is educate yourselves. Learning more about panic and anxiety will help you help the person that needs the help. With that being said, there are certain coping strategies that you can assist the person with. So, for instance, you can walk them through the deep breathing techniques where you inhale with them, count till five, exhale with them. There are other things like counting backwards from 100. You could look at if you have a clock in your house and the person's having an anxiety attack in your house, tracking time. So looking at the second sticking would help you as well. Often also we find that people just need a diversion of their thinking, right? So a lot of people then what happens is if they do reach out and just have a conversation with you, be there to listen and just to have a chat with them. Often what happens through the conversation, you distract and you diverting their thoughts, which means they are then forgetting about what actually caused the anxiety.
Hmm. Let's talk about the role that mental health professionals play in such situations. How important is it to see someone or have medical advice whenever you are struggling with panic attacks or anxiety disorders?
I think it's so important that we do reach out if you are experiencing panic for a long period of time. Also, if you are experiencing it for at least 3 weeks and above, then yes, reach out, get the help you need. The earlier you go and get the help, the easier it then takes to get better from whatever you're experiencing. And that goes across board with everything, be it physical illness or mental health. But what happens is a therapist will then talk you through a process. If this panic is severe, you will get medication, which means you might need a support of a GP or a psychiatrist who will be able to then prescribe that medication to you. With that, there are different therapy techniques that are very helpful to then deal with your panic and anxiety. Some of those techniques are CBT, that's cognitive behavioral therapy, where they teach you how to like almost manipulate your thoughts so that you start feeling better and you are able to cope better. There are other things like mindfulness, which will help you then learn to be in your present moment, which will also help you deal with your anxiety and panic better. There's also different other support systems that you can put in place, like joining a support group where you can find people that are going through something very similar to you, and you are able to then identify that you are not alone, and there are others that are going through something similar, and you learn from each other from the tips that they use to cope differently. And also, it's about sharing your story and feeling part of not feeling as isolated as what you thought you would be.
Mm. And what is the most important thing we can take away from our conversation about mental health awareness and just panic disorders?
I, it's such an interesting but difficult question as well.
Mm.
I think it's so important that we educate ourselves about the different types of mental health disorders there are. The the more we are aware of them, the more we are equipped with how to cope with them, the easier it becomes to live day to day with it. One thing that we always say, it takes one step at a time. Things won't just all of a sudden change and become better, but every time you make an effort, things do become easier. But knowing coping strategies and how to cope with panic is important because that's what's going to help you get through the panic attack or when you are feeling anxious. Some of the grounding techniques that we have or that we share will be helpful to you to then feel a bit more at ease and rested. But at the same time, we always say everything goes hand in hand, and we need to look at it a holistic overview of how to take care of ourselves. So that includes taking care of your mental health and well-being, but at the same time making sure that your lifestyle choices are correct. So eating healthy, sleeping adequately, and also exercise, and ensuring that you have a great self-care a routine put in place for yourself, because self-care isn't selfish, but it's something that you need to get by, your stressful situations, or just trying to recuperate from a very busy week.
Hmm. I mean, Jazakallah so much for joining us, Fatima, and just for giving us insight and education on the importance of, learning about panic disorders, learning about anxiety attacks also, but also just prioritizing one's mental health in general. So, Jazakallah so much for your time.
Shukran for having us on.
Jazakallah so much. Viewers at home, that was Fatima Seedat, who was just, helping us commemorate Mental Health Awareness and Panic Awareness Day that's coming up, and also just the importance of looking after one's mental health and educating yourself about what exactly is an anxiety disorder or a panic attack. But without wasting any time, let's go to a break. We'll see you right after this.